Oh man, you will not believe live chat what we had to go through to get to this point. You'll notice we lost Brandon. Let's just put it this way. Come next week, we are going to move to another way of doing this podcast.
Seriously. All right. Can you hear me now?
Oh yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, thank God.
I know, for real.
God, what a mess. Like, I wonder if anybody at Google actually uses Hangouts.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why they're canceling it or whatever it is that they're doing, because
Pretty
they just know
much.
know it's trash.
I mean, they have Hangouts Meet, and I don't imagine that would go into YouTube Live. But let's just put it this way: I know of a different way of doing this that might actually make life easier on everybody. It just so all the work will be on me. So we're gonna probably move to like Skype, and Skype actually released what they call creator features, where if you set it up if you just hit a few settings in the settings, every stream from every caller, audio and video, can become a stream for apps like OBS and XSplit, basically gamer apps. So you can create those streams, and I can manipulate them so that we're all in one screen. We don't even have to worry about it like moving back and forth. And then I just stream that to YouTube Live.
All right.
Yeah. So, ideally we would have it so that just make sure all the audio is still.
Oh my God! So your audio just went full slow-mo right now.
Really?
Yes,
wow.
Really. Wow. Oh my God! This is the worst service in history. This is the worst service in history. Like and the problem is, it actually started off well. I don't understand how Google could start something out so well and then get it wrong eventually. Is your audio back? 2. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Like, for example, if I disconnect the headphones and then connect them back in, it will remain stuck to the speaker. Now I can hear you.
Okay, there we go.
Good.
Yeah. So that means I have to restart my recording.
Do it. Mine is still recording.
Okay, no worries. I will figure it out later. Jules, is this what you had to go through?
Oh God, Jules, I feel so bad for you, buddy. Miss you.
Test. All right. So recording again, back on track in that case. Let's see what our chat is saying. Did y'all watch the Star Wars trailer? I
have not.
I haven't watched it yet. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I saw it on the front page of YouTube, and I was really curious. All right. In any case, let's finally get the show on the road. Brandon, thank you for falling on your sword for us. I said that we could like do this on Sunday. I'll get the Skype version of the podcast running, but you know what? It's Jaime and myself for today. Next week we will be finally on Skype.
I need a day off, but so no. You guys are like Sunday, Saturday. I'm like, no. I've been flying so much. I'm like, no, I need a day off.
Yeah, even we're going to talk about the event later, but us being in San Francisco, which is not far from me, I still am recovering. Granted, we're not going to get into like the fun stuff that happened during that trip, but there was plenty of it. But yeah, there's recovery going on right now, so I feel the exact same way. I'm actually very self-conscious of my voice right now, so if my voice sounds extra husky or raspy right now, I apologize, everybody. Other than the technical difficulty of it sounding weird.
Bored at work. Yes, it's a teaser. I saw things I recognized, and oh my God, Enabong, what are you doing here? Why don't you join? Oh, because it's going to collapse the podcast. That's true. Damn
exactly.
Never mind. We don't miss him anyways.
All I know is that the trailer is called The Rise of Skywalker, and I'm like, wait a minute. So
what?
Yeah,
I feel so ignorant right now. Damn it. Where is it?
That's all I saw, the title. That's all I saw. But in any case, we do have to get the show going. So as long as all recording is going.
True. That's why we're here.
Yes, exactly. That is why we're here. All right, let me give it a beat. Take a quick sip of this bulletproof to keep me going after. Oh God. Okay, here we go. The Weekly is supported by the Oregon State University eCampus. Do you want to take the fast track to your career in computing? You can earn your computer science degree 100% online from Oregon State and tap into unlimited career possibilities in any field. Learn more at ecampus.oregonstate.edu/now. Massive traffic to Coachella and tax day will not keep us, and even technical difficulties are not going to keep us from having a show on this week. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly, brought to you by Pocketnow and XDA developers on this day. It is April 12th, 2019. To anybody who has watched the YouTube version, you saw just what kind of technical difficulties we were coming into this. We are almost an hour late for our scheduled podcast because at some point in Hangouts, I could hear Jaime, but not Brandon. At some point, I could hear Brandon, but not Jaime. They could hear each other. I was the one who was being messed with this entire day.
It's not April Fool's.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even April Fool's. It's like half a month away already. That went by quick, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh God.
But in any case, we have here, of course, the host of the Pocketnow Daily and Pocketnow Adario. You all know him and love him. Jaime Rivera is back. But yeah, welcome back, Jaime. Good to see you back on the cast.
Thank you for having me. I told you we should have recorded this in San Fran, dude. We didn't have to deal with the drama of Hangouts. My God.
I agree with you, though. I don't think after having appeared on All About Android that night.
Oh, that's true. You have to drive so far, buddy.
I did. I mean, well, the thing is, like, there's just something about the guys over at All About Android that I just can't say no to them. Like, whenever they know that I'm going to be in town, they ask me to come on, and I always go because it's a fun time. I always forget it's a 2-hour podcast, so it's long. But yeah, coming back after All About Android, I was just like, I just don't know if I have enough host in me after 2 hours as a guest.
I know the feeling, man. I know the feeling.
Yeah. So good to see you back. I see that green screen in the background. That's pretty dope.
Sorry about that. I usually film in the living room, but right now it's like so Logitech hooked me up with a ton of stuff, man. Their Pro keyboard, their 902 gaming mouse with like the whole with like that trackpad that sorry, not the trackpad, but the mouse pad that charges inductively. And they sent me the Logitech Brio, which is what I'm currently using. Yeah. So we finally have a better camera, even if it seems that my Wi-Fi stream is not great, but I can't really do much about that right now. And then Yeti sent me their Yeti caster, which is freaking awesome, man.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so did you learn that from Thunder E, that upside down?
No,
Thunder E does that.
No, it's just I don't like it the other way around because you can't really use the table.
Oh,
so this is just a more practical way to still get audio and have your table available to you.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so as you can see from our title, we are going to talk about the LG G8 ThinQ. And I love how I'm always saying ThinQ now. It's just become a habit to me. Back on All About Android, Jason Howell, shouts out to you. He was the only person that I know of that actually referred to it as the ThinQ. And I was like, don't do that. Please don't do that. It's the G8. But yes, we're going to get to that a little bit later. There are a couple of announcements that I want to make sure we cover that happened this week. And one of them we were actually attending while some of our friends went straight to this other event right after we got out of San Francisco. I am talking, of course, about the brand new Samsung phone, the A series that we never get to enjoy here in the US. Though I think it's a travesty because the A series tends to introduce new features to the flagship line. So the A series, you saw this thing, right? Like you this thing is crazy.
I wish I would have seen it live, 1 for the A series and 2 for the trip to Milan. Damn it.
Milan once again, my goodness.
What is up? My God.
They're picking, like, every company is picking these crazy destinations. Like there's Milan, there's Paris. You know, Paris seems to be the hot one.
Stop complaining. Let's just do it again.
Let's rewind the tape and stop our whining.
Let's do it again.
Well, the thing is with the Samsung I keep wanting to say A90. I don't know why. A80, right?
A80.
So with the A80, what we have here is, I was already saying that the slider mechanism from like the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3, a couple of other ones like the mechanical sliders of the Oppo Find X, like it felt like they were going to go away too quickly. And then here comes Samsung, and they're like, "No, hold our what's a Korean beer?
Hold my beer." Hold my
Yeah, I
beer.
was like, what's a Korean beer though? I'm trying to remember. Hold my height. My, hold my soju. And here comes a phone that not only has a sliding mechanism, but it also has a rotating camera, a rotating motorized camera,
Yeah.
a la Oppo N1 and 3. So it's
Oppo
like,
N1 and 3 and Oppo Find X had a baby, and it came out really nice.
yeah, exactly. Now I don't know the actual specs on the phone itself, but from what I remember of the 8 series, it tends to not be the top tier like processor internals or anything like that. But
Well,
it is the radical phone.
but that's the thing. I mean, we just came out of an event with Qualcomm where they announced the Snapdragon 730, 730G, and 665. And the 730 is the one that's powering this phone. And so if you remember, there are two major things that the 730 and 730G bring. They bring far better video support. The 665 brings a far better ISP for imaging, but this one, 730, brings a better ISP for both video and photos. So usually the biggest problem when you go mid-tier is not just a lot of people don't know this, and I'll admit that I didn't really understand this until probably about a year ago, where I didn't know that it wasn't just about the sensor. It could be the best Sony sensor, it could be the best camera lens, but if the ISP on the processor is not going to do a good job in supporting these, it just throws everything down the drain.
Oh yeah.
And so so this 730 brings a significantly better ISP along with the 665. And so you're going to have better photo, better video, but then it's a premium mid-ranger. It's not an 855. It's in the middle, in between the 6 series and we're already jumping topics, but that's really what makes this phone special. I mean, if you remember, the 730 supports 48 megapixel cameras, and I believe this A80 has a 48 megapixel, correct?
It might. I actually haven't read the spec sheets too. Like it's weird. Once these not the renders, but once people's coverage of the phone was coming out, I just kept honing in on that rotating camera. I can't stop looking at it. It is the weirdest thing. Like this doesn't feel like
Yep.
Samsung to me. Like
48 megapixel camera.
Oh, okay.
So we've got a Snapdragon 730. By the way, that's an 8 nanometer. We're talking about let me see. Wow. So is this correct? Yeah, triple cameras. 8 megapixel, 48 megapixel f2, 8 megapixel f2.2, 12 millimeter ultra wide, and then we've got a time of flight 3D camera. And so you pretty much can use that whether you're doing selfies or using this as a primary camera. And even so, it's a 1080p plus display. We're talking about 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage. I mean, this is
it's still good.
It's a very, very well designed, very good looking premium mid ranger. And literally, the only thing that's making it a premium mid ranger is that 730 that's powering it. That's not the chump that usually mid ranger processors used to be.
So I came to this thought originally that this sliding rotating mechanism, it doesn't feel very Samsung to me. Like this is the most radical thing that I think that they've ever done as far as hardware design is concerned.
Oh.
And
what are you talking about? Galaxy Note Edge, dude. I mean, back in the day,
I agree with you there.
Galaxy Note. Like, I mean, I love that Samsung is back to that root. Surely this is not their idea. It's somebody else's idea. But I love a company that's willing to dare things. I mean, right now, whatever companies are not doing crazy things are just not relevant. You need that Tesla Roadster, even if you're not going to sell it. You need the Roadster to keep people's eyeballs on you while you launch that Model 3 and that Model S. That's the way you make money.
I agree with that.
This is your cheapest publicity stunt ever, with the exception that this phone's actually going to sell and it's actually really good.
Yeah, indeed. And the thing is, like, I remember the Note Edge. I'll never forget it. I remember one of my friends back home in my neighborhood actually got the Note Edge, and we all, like, my brother and I, my brother like follows our content, and I remember him looking at her and going, "What made you? Why? Who talked to you at the T-Mobile store and convinced you to get that?" Like, like who actually got into your head that this would be the phone for you to get? And she's like, "I don't know. There's more screen, and it looks really, I kind of like how unique it looks." And we're like, "Can you hold it? Can you hold it?" And she's like, "No." But in any case, yes, that is the last time that they went really radical with this. But what I mean here is that this is the kind of, like, the Note Edge was its own thing. Meanwhile, the A series has generally been like that mid-ranger line that people can get for a little bit less money. But this is like this is the craziest thing that they've done, that the mid-range people that don't even live in the West, like they're in Europe, like we don't get it. And I'm like, that's almost a travesty. But of course, as Samsung generally does, when the A series all of a sudden had a metal backing, or rather it had the metal frame, then we got the Note 4.
Right.
And then it got the the triple camera, or at least a double camera. Then we got
Yeah.
the Galaxy S8 and S9.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that I was going to say, is that Samsung has been using the Galaxy A line forever for experimentation, and so you just pointed it out. That was the first Galaxy with a metal frame back in the day. The first Galaxy Alpha was the first one, and then we've seen the triple cameras and everything, and so obviously there is a lot less risk in the Galaxy A, and if it sells well, then this is like, okay, the guinea pigs bought it. Let's now pull it into the Galaxy S or into the Galaxy Note. You know, I think that it's like the smartest way to test a product, where you're not pulling all your guns at risk here. Whereas other companies only have one product, and everything they either do right or wrong can be a significant risk to everything.
Fair enough. So, do you think that this is going to be a Note? Do you think this is what we're going to look forward to with the Note 10?
No, because let me continue looking into these specs. I'm not exactly sure this thing is water resistant. So I don't think that Samsung is going to bring a slider mechanism to that. That's the biggest problem with doing sliders. I mean, is there any that's water resistant? No. And for some reason, and for some reason, these companies are not wanting to experiment with the nano coating that Moto was using in their previous flagships to bring internal water resistance. So I don't know, man. I don't see any water resistance here, so I don't think so. We'll see.
All right, fair enough. Okay, quick shout out to our live chat. I just opened it up. I am Blur, always a homie, like in there. Thank you for shouting out my my personal gaming channel once again. But yeah, I just want to make sure that we get. If you have any donations, then of course you can always donate.
Dude,
it allows your.
You just pledged $100.
Exactly.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's the homie.
Thank you so much.
He's been very active on Pocketnow and on my channel and channels, I should say. But yeah, I am Blur. Like, you're too generous, bro. Thank you so much for that. If you have any donations, of course, we'll give you a shout out.
Dude, for like, seriously, humbled. We should have you on the podcast one day.
Oh yeah, there you go. That would be 200 though. I'm kidding. I'm playing. All right. So we mentioned already a little bit in that last story, the processor. Of course, we have in this particular phone, is the A80 going to be the first one with that 730? Because
it's the first one announced. I mean, I was shocked because Qualcomm didn't really. So we went to their event and they didn't tell us that these are the phones. Usually Qualcomm will brag about not just their product, but their partners. They mentioned no partners whatsoever. And then out of the blue, boom, we get a phone. And it wasn't like even related. Like, we were there still with Samsung. The device got announced and nobody from Qualcomm, we were there with Qualcomm, and nobody from Qualcomm was like, look, the first phone launched. Nobody said anything, like nothing. So that was weird.
Yeah. So I don't know how much we'll be able to actually talk about the AI aspect of that event, which for a 3-hour presentation, it was 2.5 hours of it.
Yes, but the problem is for a moment there, I was like, all right, man, I need to just go register at MIT and just like, the conversation was so technical, so beyond technical. I'm like, Sharif, buddy, if you're listening, you're on Twitter and we're always talking. I miss Sharif at Qualcomm because he would do such a great job at just being like, all right, humans, now the robot conversation already finished. Humans, come over. I'll explain to you in human terms what everything that just got talked about means.
Yeah, indeed. We do miss you, Sharif. And you know what, though? He's still active on Twitter, so it's not like
he's awesome. He's the best.
It's not like we never hear from the guy, but yes, it was definitely. to our listeners and viewers of the YouTube channel, if you take anything away from this particular episode, just remember this: for people like us who are in the industry, there are two different ways of talking about products and about spec. There's high level and low level. It'll seem backwards, but high level is what people like Jaime and myself are, and what all of you are. We know the surface level. We know what it means to the lifestyle. We know what it means to actually have a product and what it does for our lives. However, the nitty gritty, the deep down, deep dive, low level stuff is exactly what Qualcomm was presenting to us when it came to AI. All of these like. I don't even know the jargon, but there were questions that were being posed that I was like, I would have never thought to ask that. You know, like how many gigawatts like were being
gigawatts. But the funny part is when the presentation finished and they asked for a round of questions and very few people asked, like, what were you going to ask?
I have no idea. I mean, I would have been like, I don't know, like can AI, with all of this, like, because what they're doing is they're bolstering all of the AI cloud capabilities and also on-device capabilities with a new chip. So yeah, it'll be able to process even more. There's going to be much more capability. There's going to be much more power involved for what will eventually become AI solutions. But now, the question is, how will that actually make AI better when the only examples we really have right now are these AI assistants, which I don't think anyone truly uses on the daily.
I do, man. And I am surprised. I have an A device right in front of me, so I can't mention the name. Mm-hmm. I am surprised that, like, for example, I in the extra couple of days that I stayed in Barcelona, a couple of friends from Barcelona insisted that I stay a couple of days with them. And so they were so nice and so gracious to allow me to stay in their apartment. And the first thing that we walked in was just walking in, and the guy is like, A, turn on the lights. Boom. A, lock the door. A, start playing this song. And so they are not really tech savvy people. And yet I get to see that more and more and more. And so one of the things that I did take away from the presentation was, one of the things is my level of admiration over how much work goes in the background for all this to be so natural to us, the consumer. Fair. And just to realize how many layers of work, how many years of R&D, how difficult it is to actually get A and the G assistant to understand very simple conversation. I was shocked. I was honestly shocked, and one of the things that Qualcomm announced is their whole AI focused, like server-based processor. All right, fine. We're going to bring this technology now to a higher level. We're not just going to dedicate ourselves to doing the end part of the mobile system, but also be able to provide the capabilities to servers and everything. And so, there's a lot of work, but it also makes me really confident that, over time, as consumers, we're going to see the result of this. Obviously, that AI processor that's going to be launched later is going to be second half of 2019.
I believe so. Yes, it was going to be later this year. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so I'm grateful that so much work is happening in the background to enable everything that we're seeing. And obviously what we need to see now are products. But I think that the way Qualcomm is taking it, particularly, how, like, for example, if you saw, it's like a loop. Like, first they showed us in San Diego the way they're approaching the mobile chips for these speakers to work wirelessly. And so somebody was like, yeah, no, but Amazon had already done this, which was actually, I believe, a Qualcomm chip, but you couldn't really talk to the product and have it listen to you. Well, it was on battery power. You had to press a button for it to listen. Whereas this new chip, you can talk to it. And so we're going in that direction, and I'm really liking it. I really am.
I think it's great. It's just this whole idea that the low level specifications are getting so much better that it seems so beyond the realm of understanding we have right now. And that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a good thing. It's just that when we were sitting there, we're just like,
oh my God. Sorry, but I am blur saying, like, Josh's video, flawless. Jaime's video, PewDiePie filter.
Oh. I did see that. Are you using the oh gosh, Blur. You have to be 9 years old to get my reference. That's some shade right there. That's some shade. PewDiePie.
No, I actually Diego actually explained to me what that filter means. I had no idea the guy. No, but I'm actually using the Brio. It's not that problem. The problem is the the stream to Wi-Fi actually moved the router to a different position, but I need, like, this apartment oddly is not small for New York. And therefore it's just too many devices connected to it. The other day I called Fios and I'm like, listen, like, I need a router replacement. And the guy's like, well, it would really help if you would turn off any of those 48 devices that you have on. That would really
Fair.
help. And
That's fair.
and I'm like, it's 2019, dude. Come on, man.
I
Like, I've
know.
got lights, I've got speakers, I've got smart TVs. Come on, man. Welcome to the 21st century. Like, seriously,
Yeah.
I need a better router, and I need a mesh connection. So
I was about
that's
to
on
say, do you need a mesh router, or really you can pick up probably one of those heavy duty gaming routers. I've actually been getting emails from Netgear for that kind of stuff.
I would really appreciate one. Tell them that, sure, I have a problem and I'll feature it. No problem.
There we go. Oh yeah, I'll email them back and say, yeah, send me a review unit. It's not going to be me though. I'm not using it. But in any case, before we get into our to our only break, before we get into our break, some final thoughts on the processors. Obviously, the Snapdragon talk was what made us sit up, and we have an example now with the A80 from Samsung. The Snapdragon 730 is the main one. What was is it 665? That was the
665 and the 730G, which is focused on gaming.
I like this a lot because, okay, you have the casual user who might actually know, and if you do know what your specific needs are from a smartphone, more power to you. It's very rare for someone to be like that, especially in our industry. So if you know that you want a good camera, period, hard stop. If you know you want a good gaming phone, hard stop, then Qualcomm is hooking you up. And this is important. That's the reason why this is important, is because it's taking some of the features from the flagship processors, which, unless you're in China, you're probably going to be spending at least $700+ on it, and putting it into a mid-range processor that can be put into a mid-range phone that ideally could be maybe sub 500, and that's awesome. You can get a gaming phone, actually play that PUBG with your friends, get mad at them, and like do it without too many problems. You can play new games like Elder Scrolls Blades, which just came out and I'm just playing, and I've just pre-registered for Call of Duty Mobile, which was just announced 2 days ago as well. So there are a lot of games coming out, and this is actually meeting those new games, and I actually like that. I'm obviously talking mainly about the gaming one, but there's also the camera one. And you mentioned that this is a good thing before.
Yeah, I for me, again, you and I have had conversations repeatedly about gaming and mobile. I'm wondering if that 730G will enable some sort of a resurface of like the NVIDIA Shield, a product that's dedicated for gaming that's not a phone. I mean, the Nintendo Switch already proved that the product doesn't need to be a phone to be popular, and people are actually willing to pony up more money for a better gaming experience. And so can we get better Android games to take advantage more of a product that doesn't have to worry about the battery life of a phone and the difficulties of a phone and the fact that a phone has to have a screen everything is touchscreen, where instead we could have controls and everything? That was my biggest question that I honestly forgot to like fully ask at the event was, what's the plan with this gaming focused processor? Yeah. Is it different kind of hardware, or what's the plan?
Yeah, and I think, but the thing is, the hardware part is going to be up to the manufacturers to take that gaming processor and actually build itself around it. I don't think Qualcomm actually has the too much say in that kind of thing. But I will say there were a couple of videos that came out from a few of our influencer friends, including Thunder E, where they had the reference device. Which, by the way, Qualcomm, come on, your reference devices actually look good. Hand those designs over to people so that we can actually get those phones. The reference design phone performed quite well under games that Thunder E was playing, and that was a phone that, for all intents and purposes, shouldn't cost a whole lot of money, which I think is great. But yeah, just some quick thoughts on all of that. So look forward to some mid-rangers that actually have the capabilities that you can enjoy the phone without needing to feel that phone envy. I can't even begin to tell you how many people I know have Alcatel phones, and then they see like, oh, I wish I could get the Samsung, but I'm on Cricket. It doesn't make it doesn't make sense for me to have an S10 Plus on Cricket. I mean, come on now.
Well, Cricket's actually not that bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's just
No.
The
No,
reason why you're on Cricket is for cost efficiency. And then if you're going to get like a cheap phone plan, you're going to spend the rest of the money on $1,000 phone that's going to go away in a year and a half. Like it's figuring out where your needs truly lie.
Yeah.
All right. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and get into our first break before we talk about the LG G8 ThinQ. Okay, so I do have a mid-roll here for us. Shouts out to Brandon sending me the script for our mid-roll ad for today. All right, folks. This episode of the Pocketnow Weekly is brought to you by the Brave browser, available for all major platforms, including iOS and Android. Brave is a browser that rewards you for just using it. While it blocks all trackers and ads for a truly private browsing experience that's up to 8 times faster than Chrome and Safari. Since it's based on Chromium, all of your Chrome stuff still works with Brave right out of the box. Now, I did do a video on Pocketnow about the Brave browser, and I've been using Brave ever since. It was like a week or two before that, and then ever since then. I will admit that I don't use the Brave browser quite as much on a mobile platform because, after all, everything works in apps. But on my desktop, on the very laptop that I'm using for this podcast, Brave is what I'm using. And one of my favorite parts about Brave at the moment is that whenever I open up a new tab, it's telling me how many ads and trackers it has blocked. And as far as ads are concerned, I'm almost at the 100,000 mark. It's a lot of ads. So Brave is actually really working hard to make sure that you're not getting inundated with all of the crap that might be out on the internet. So it's built into the browser, and you can try it out, and all of your Chrome stuff will work with Brave. For more info, head to pocketnow.com/brave. All right, I have a recurring segment that I wanted to start bringing in. I started out with Thunder E, with E. Like, okay, E, one of these days we're going to talk about how you expect me to say thunder every single time, but and a bong, yeah, but he prefers Thunder E. That's his online persona, I suppose. Mr. Ete, I asked him when he was on the cast. I came up with a recurring segment called "What Is in Your Pocket Now," and in his case, he was wearing his Focals by North glasses, which we all got to see this past weekend. Those things were pretty cool, but I was going to go ahead and ask you. I mean, I will answer the question as well. You could pick anything. It could be the phone we're about to talk about. It could be a different phone that you like using. It could even be like a notebook that's in my pocket. I am one of those people. But yeah, what is in your pocket now? Yeah, I have a notebook. I always have a notebook in my pocket.
What is in my pocket now? Okay.
Oh, there we go.
P30 Pro, and this, which I've been really meaning to test, the View 20. Because I'm really curious. Oh yeah, the Moschino variant. I'm really curious over the differences in camera technology from similar companies, if we should call them that way. And so I've been playing around with both, and I'm P30 Pro, man. I don't think this is a tank of a phone. Like, if you compare it to the Mate 20 Pro, this is a hefty device. Hefty device. It is.
I finally got to hold one, thank God. And
how's your Red doing? Yeah.
The Red, I've booted it up. I've put in a SIM, but I am going to take it out with me this weekend to do a real world camera test. I don't know where I'm going to go yet, but I have a feeling that the best place for me to go would be an observatory of sorts to test out that very far zoom. So I feel like that would be good.
The Griffin Observatory would be good.
That one would be good. There's also the U.S. Bank building where they have that they really marketed that slide, but it's actually one of the most boring things you could ride. But in any case, yeah, I was thinking of doing something like that. And also gratitude to you for finding a way to hook it up for that P30 Pro. Thank you for that. I'm going to make sure to.
No, are you kidding?
Do a lot with that over the next few days. As far as what is
honestly, I don't miss that Red. I like this.
Thank you. You and E were like giving me crap for not liking the red one. It looks like a big piece of salmon in your hand.
We can swap if you want. I mean,
I'm cool either way. I'm cool either way, to be honest. It's just that, like, I just thought it was funny how everybody was getting jazzed about the red one, and I was like, I'm not. I'm honestly not. Anyway, as far as what is in my pocket now, I wanted to highlight one quick thing. Okay, so everyone talked about the S Pen and how it was a trigger for a camera, and this is something that that no one really talks about. I actually picked up a trigger, a universal trigger. This is by Joby, the same guys who make the Gorilla Pod.
Oh, wow.
I actually think this is an underrated piece of tech, because if you are going to be like a solo like Instagrammer or anything like that, or even then, if you just want to be able to take pictures any which way, anywhere, a trigger is actually really useful, and it's super low power. You just have to turn it on, pair it to your phone, and then all of a sudden you have a remote trigger. I think that people forget that these exist. So as much as we love the S Pen for having that functionality in there, this is all over Amazon, and they're only
All
like $4.
I have a tile in my keys,
Oh, there you go.
a jump drive, a SIM ejector, and the keys I need to get home.
There
That's
we
what
go.
I have.
Oh, and as far as
And then I keep the car keys separately.
okay. If anyone was curious, this purple portion right here, that's my key fob to get into Anytime Fitness. So there you go. Finally went to the gym for the first time last night in forever. Oh my god. It's probably the one good thing I did yesterday for myself. Let me just put it that way.
Last night I finished that G8 review so late last night that I was planning to go to the gym today, and I'm tired.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. I've been tired since we got back. Now, you just mentioned the LG G8 ThinQ, and let's go ahead and get started with it. Of course, I have okay, let me get this off. I have the pop socket on the case. So, silver edition on my end.
Black edition on my end, because this is the unlocked.
So this is the Verizon one. And
yeah,
gratefully, the Verizon version still works with my Google Fi card and with any card, really. Like it's pretty much universal, but this is the Verizon colorway. So I've seen a lot of people on YouTube have so many mixed reactions to this phone. I personally, on JV, I did a real world camera test where I vlogged this thing out in Napa Valley. It was a great time. And I think it did a great job, honestly. The video quality is still there. The bitrate is still pretty great. The wide angle could be wider. There is a little bit of over sharpening, but at times when you need some of that sharpening to compensate for some of the footage, it actually helps. The audio pickup is great. I think I need to get into the settings to bring it down a little bit, because the audio did come in a little bit hot. So those are just some quick thoughts from the video that I made. Your review is coming out pretty soon.
It's already live.
It's already live? Oh, okay, I didn't see it on the channel yet.
But it went live like at 3:30 a.m. or something like that. It was
okay.
bad.
Some hot takes from you real quick before we get into sort of the existential LG talk. Like what
No. It's actually going to be all existential LG talk. So why don't we start? And that's going to be my conclusions.
Okay, fair enough. So where did you land on LG as a company based on this phone?
I started the video with the argument that there's always this phone that comes up with these like crazy things every year. And every now and then it's always LG. LG is one of those companies that's not afraid to do things that are completely the opposite to what everybody's doing, like the wide angle camera, where everybody else was doing either a single camera or telephoto. LG is that weird company that still provides us with a quad DAC for audio. So not all like a lot of these decisions that the company has brought out are still industry leaders, like the wide angle, which is now being thrown on everything. The audio jack, which is still the best. There is no other phone, unless it's an LG phone, that does audio as well as LG. And there are a lot of things that people take for granted that are unique about this phone that are special. Like, for example, this vibrating display that provides you audio that other people can't hear, and it also becomes like a sort of a speaker. All these things are great. They're unique. So a lot of people are like, oh yeah, the G8 is an iteration of the G7. And I'm like, no. The G7 was more catch me up. All right, here's a phone, and it's finally going to have the latest processor, because if you remember, the G6 didn't. So I think that the G7 was like that jump into we're finally on spot with the processors. That was it. But then it was the same camera sensors, the same user interface. Nothing about the phone was unique. The same LCD, yada, yada, yada. Whereas the G8 brings things that are, again, what other phone has a quad DAC if not LG? What other phone has a vibrating display that also emits audio if not LG? So there are a lot of unique things about this phone. So I'm like, all right, let's assume that I'm not going to mention any of the air gestures or any of the. I'm like, it records my vein patterns. I'm like, listen, either this technology is so ahead of its time or what?
I personally think that the vein recognition now may not actually be vein recognition. I think that just because you're so close to your phone, that is what they're calling it. But I actually think that these air motion gestures and all, whatever you want to call them, it's not about the phone. I think I said this one time when we were actually looking at the phones for the first time. There's a train. Give me a second. So I do live in not live. My office is in an area that's a little bit like there's a barn not far from here. Let's just put it that way.
The only train that passes by LA is right next to your office. Damn it.
Exactly. And the only one that would actually like pull the horn because the rest of them are metro trains. Anyway, that was a cargo train. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I think that this is a proof of concept where they're going to add these air motion gestures into things like their TVs.
Right.
On your couch, you bring your hand up and then you go, okay, go over here.
Right. Right.
And
the thing about it is these air gestures are not new. The Galaxy S4 was the first device to bring them.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the Galaxy S4 was how many years ago?
It was a while. It was before woke Twitter, because that presentation, man.
Oh my God. Okay, so the biggest problem is not the idea. I think that the idea is great. The problem is the implementation.
Yes.
And so, so I walk through the review being like, LG is being as bold as it has been. I actually like the photography on this phone. I did not like it on the G7. Like, I did a video on it, and it's just, it was okay, but I'm like, all right, LG, we need to move away from the G4. Like, we need for you to move away from using small pixel sensors, small micron sensors, and join the crowd of and so they don't do just a good job on the primary camera. Like, if you use the wide angle, it may be tighter than every other, but it's just, again, this is the 4th generation of ultra wide from LG, and so try to look for distortion on this camera. Whereas if I grab any other phone, doesn't matter which one, I could grab the Galaxy S10, which is here. I could grab the P20, P30 Pro, Mate 20 Pro. Every single one has barrel distortion. The G8 has none. Mm-hmm. Has 0. Like, I was like, wow, either I need to get closer to something. Like the Galaxy S10 has the weirdest barrel distortion out of all of them. It's just, because it's an addition. For me, it's like, it's great to have, not the best. For me, the best wide angle right now is the G8.
Okay. Yeah, I do agree that it is still, especially for video, it is still the highest quality one to use. It's not as jarring as the other ones. You're right. The distortion could be there. The thing is, the G8 still has a little bit of distortion on the sides, but it's so negligible compared to the rest.
So minimal. It is so minimal. And the other thing is color reproduction on that wide angle. Usually wide angles have I believe this is the wide angle with the brightest aperture at f1.9. And so I could be wrong, but dude, I took some night shots with this thing. Usually you would never dare use wide angles unless you're using a Mate 20 Pro or P30 Pro, because you have the night mode option, and that helps you be able to punch in better light in dark scenarios. Whereas in this one does a decent enough job.
Yeah, HDR is pretty aggressive, I will say.
HDR is pretty aggressive. All that. I still feel that this is a very, very good camera. I was not impressed by the V40. My V40 review was like, meh, whereas this, again, if we are to forget about the gimmicks and just focus on what the phone does right, a lot of the things that it does right. Actually,
yeah. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Actually, my complaints were different. My complaint, number one, don't take this phone out in direct sunlight.
The screen.
Oh, God, the screen. So the screen is not bad. It's not Pixel 3 XL bad. It's not that bad. And thank you, Google, for giving us the benchmark for the worst screen you would want to use in direct sunlight. And so it's because of the existence of the Pixel 3 XL that you can forgive the G8 for not being the brightest. If you notice, your screen is always going to be cranked up at like 80 to 85%. Even if you're in a dark scenario, it's going to be stuck there. And then when you exit to sunlight, it will boost fully, but then it will it just comes to a point where it just, so the problem is when you come back from a Galaxy S10, anything is dim AF, anything. And so that was one of my complaints. Trying to remember what was my other complaint. Go for it.
Well, while you're thinking about that, I was having a conversation with actually this was on All About Android again because we were talking about the phone. Both Flo and I had our phones. So what the LG G8 ThinQ gets right, it gets so right. And I think that that's what I choose to focus on more than anything else, which is funny because it's so easy as tech YouTubers or as tech pundits to just look at the things that it tries to do that's different from everybody else. And because they are quote unquote lackluster or the implementation is not good, you end up just feeling kind of meh about the phone in general. Because what I always notice is that everybody who comes into a review, and we're all guilty of this, I know I do it as well, is that once you come into a phone like this, the first thing you do is think, well, what is my comparison phone to this? And a lot of people's right now is either the iPhone or the Galaxy S10 Plus. Will this beat either of those phones? I don't think so. But the thing is, so far, since I've gotten the phone and I've used it, and like I said, I did use it for a real world camera test. That's a 12-minute vlog where I used this phone the entire day. You know what? Despite some of the quirks that are going on, and my main problem with this phone is the UI, LG's UI. LG, you got to update your UI, man. Like,
Oh my God.
you got to update your UI. Like everyone used to poo-poo EMUI. I am actually giving EMUI a pass now. LG's UI, you're too old now. Like you gotta.
And it's not just that it's too old. So there are a couple of problems with the UI that I will try to. All right, so I'm going to join you in not liking the UI from a visual perspective. The only thing that I like about the UI has actually nothing to do with the UI, but it's because we have a time of flight camera, and this is considered. I guess this is an Android feature, or I don't know. But the only Android phone that was capable of doing the iOS thing, where if you unlock the phone with your face, it has the notifications locked until it detects you, and then it shows you the notifications.
Oh,
This is perfect for everybody that's dating a Latino girlfriend. You will love this feature. It is the best. It is the best. And so the thing about it is, okay, so that's one of the things that I like. The problem is we go back. So the UI is dated. A lot of the features are like, you won't ever use them. And then a lot of things are not logical. Like, for example, obviously the phone by default comes with the full app tray. Without the app tray, and you have to enable it. But the problem is when you do, so you've got the Pixel Pill, but then it's like really weird. Like it doesn't work from all edges in the display when you swipe up. You have to literally hit the pill again to swipe. And then once you're in the app tray, you don't swipe up. You have to swipe left to right. I'm like, have you ever noticed that, have you ever driven a car where you're steering this way and then another one of the gestures is to push the damn steering wheel? Like, can we please have a uniform way of interacting with a damn phone? Android figured that out a while ago, so why do we have to reinvent the wheel with this operating system?
Yeah, I agree. There are a lot of things about the G8 that, like, I think a lot of people would look at it and think that's outdated. But I would argue that there are a lot of things in this phone industry that shouldn't be considered that way. Like one thing coming after the other doesn't necessarily mean that the later thing, new is not always better. Okay, right. So this fingerprint reader, I miss the days of having a fingerprint reader like this. Like, I don't think that the in-display fingerprint readers are bad. I don't think that they're that much slower, but this is that much more.
They're not great.
They're not amazing. This is the most reliable fingerprint reader I've used in 2019 yet.
I have to agree with that. I have to also agree the face to unlock because of the time of flight sensor, which is now, I assume that the LG's not calling it secure, but at least I trust this a lot more than I trust anything else. And so so you've got so many ways to unlock the phone, but let's jump into the part where I don't like this phone.
Okay, here we go.
I actually said it the same way. All right, so here's the thing.
Oh, and headphone jack. I just want to be sure that we make that very clear. I went to the gym last night with Bluetooth earbuds, and I was missing the headphone jack. Like I'm back to wired audio. It's great. If you haven't done it in a while, do it again. You're going to enjoy your music. You're going to get lost in the music video. That's what you should do. Anyway, go for it.
So the thing about it is, all right, let's move into these air gestures. Switch them off the moment you get the phone. Do not activate them. Like right now, no other phone has it, so there's no reason for us to bash LG over giving us an extra that you don't really need and that you could just switch off. And so I have no need to bash LG for that. I think that it's great for them to add it. And then I got this argument where it was like, yeah, but the cool thing is if you can't touch your phone because your hands are dirty because you're barbecuing or something, which I like to do, then you can just interact with the phone. I'm like, really? So try to enable the always on display and the activation of the notifications to only show up if the phone gets unlocked, and notice how the frickin' air gestures don't frickin' work. Even if you enable them. Like if your screen is off, it won't turn on. It right now it's active on my phone and it just won't turn on.
I see.
And
so they're clashing. The different features are clashing.
Exactly. So their own features clash within themselves. And I think that feature, Josh, is actually the pickup to wake. I think that's what is deactivating the hand gestures. And so I'm like, all right, are you guys going to either do it correctly or not? Like, you know?
Just real quick, just got a comment in the live chat. LG is never going to sponsor Pocketnow again. Okay, first of all,
can't wait. I can't wait for them to sponsor us the first time.
Well, this is the thing. There's nothing here in our discussion that's telling you never to buy this phone. As a matter of fact, there are reasons to get this phone. It's just that the reasons that they presented are not the reasons that we agree with. And you don't get this for the air gestures. You just don't.
And even if it was, I mean, it's not like if we're, I'm sorry, it's a review. It's not paid advertisement.
Yeah.
We're going to provide you with our opinion, which is as subjective. Josh's experience is going to be one. My experience is going to be another. Even if a company would sponsor content, they're very clear that
never review.
We have never a review, no, number one. And number two, we have creative freedom to say what we want, or it's just not going to fly. That's just the way it is.
Exactly.
You know, which is one of the main reasons why what we sponsor is the weekly and the daily, because there is no conflict of interest here.
Exactly. And yeah, that would be that is a great perspective coming from Jaime. In my case, like if no one clues into this by now, I never say that I truly dislike something. There's no reason to. Like that's what I'm trying to get across with this, is that even if there are things about this that I understand people will dislike, it doesn't change the fact that I am enjoying myself on this phone. There is still a way to enjoy yourself on this phone. And that's valid with any.
Okay, so but I will be honest with you. In my conclusions for the review, I was like, okay, forget about the air gestures, get Nova Launcher, and you're gonna really like this phone. The problem is that it's no better than anything else out there.
Yeah. And that's where the comparison comes in. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's where it's like, okay, if I have to put my money down, would I go for a Galaxy S10 that has triple cameras, or even a Galaxy S10e that's easier to handle? I'm not gonna lie, I was really happy to not use the G8 anymore.
Okay.
Like I was really happy to be done with the review and move on. And it has nothing to do with the camera or anything else but the user interface. Like, I'm sorry, but companies really, if you can do something better than stock Android, put it out there. Oxygen OS, One UI is actually really good in my opinion. I
can't believe I'm saying this, but I enjoy using MIUI more than OGs.
Oh God, I hate MIUI.
Well, the way it is now, they've updated it quite a bit.
No, it's
I think it's
well, I don't. So, but hey, this is the beauty of reviews. They're subjective matter. We can't. None of us has the right answer, because when you go to China, you get to understand why a product like MIUI exists. Whereas if you want to cater to the U.S. audience or to any other audience, it's very difficult because our priorities and our mentality is completely different. Like it's funny when you walk into countries like, when you walk into Taiwan and you realize how much cartoons are intrinsic to their culture and why cartoony user interfaces make sense to them.
Yeah,
cutesy things, whereas we hate them. And so, I mean, you see MIUI and it's cutesy, and I don't like it because I'm used to bolder print and everything. But go to Taiwan anytime and you'll understand why this is so popular over there.
Yep.
So, you can't bash products for their approach, because those products are selling a lot more over there than they are over here.
Absolutely. I almost got into a bit of a tiff with shouts out to David Reddick. There was this whole idea during this dinner that we were at that LG is going to go by way of HTC because of this phone. And I was like, are you kidding me? No.
No.
Because there's one fundamental difference between LG and HTC. It's that in their home countries, LG is still king. And HTC is the problem with HTC phones is that even they wouldn't sell in Taiwan anymore when you already had all these other phones. HTC got buried under the onslaught of Chinese phones that overshadowed them in Taiwan. LG, on the other hand, it's LG, Samsung in Korea. They both are king and they both have such big market share in Asia. That's not going to be a problem. I don't think it's going to be a problem.
And it's not just that. I mean, like LG is like Sony. Their display business, their televisions. For the longest time, I would refuse to buy anything that was not LG. Their display quality is flat out the best, up to the point where Apple has been using LG displays. Like if LG would close down their divisions and they would survive solely on the amount of displays they sell to Apple, they'd be a profitable business, and they are. The fact that they're still selling phones is just like Sony. They want a piece of the pie. They want, for them, when you study business, smart businesses are always, you have to understand that there are always products that will be a necessary evil. If you, I'll give you the perfect example is Amazon. You think Amazon makes money out of shipping products to you and Amazon Prime and charging you $3 for shipping? No. But for Amazon, you think Google makes money out of Google Maps? No.
No.
Why are these companies in the business of products that don't make money for them? Is because now Google is a verb. Is because now Amazon controls the retail space up to the point where they're able to have their own brick and mortar stores. But honestly, where they make money out of is AWS. And none of you watching this show right now is a customer to AWS. But that's where they make their money.
Yeah.
So it's literally just top of mind. I would rather spend money on giving inexpensive products that are high quality than to pay for a billboard ad in the Wall Street Journal. That for me would be the smartest marketing. At some point I was consulting to an airline and years ago, and so I was telling them I would rather we drop the price on these products than for us to pay for billboard ads where you can't control how much is being consumed out of that ad. Whereas I can totally know how many plane tickets I sold from point A to point B to measure the effectiveness of the campaign. And so this is what LG is doing. LG is not selling cheap phones, but they're in absolutely every market, from speakers. I have a LG speaker right here, which is really good.
Whoa, that thing looks gnarly.
Dude, it is fantastic, man. I have LG speakers. I've had LG TVs, which are where they're making money. My God, did you see their projector technology at CES? They've got this projector, which is literally the size of, oh my God, the eGPU. It's literally this size, and it projects up. So you can literally place this on the wall, have it project up, and so it removes the need for a projector behind you. And it is gorgeous. It is fantastic. And so you look at LG's ultra wide monitors, man, and their gaming monitors.
Yep. They
are crazy good. So,
right
there you go. There you go. So honestly, LG, they don't care. They're in every single business. They know that they will make money here. They know that they won't make money here. Oh, their battery business, their battery division.
Yeah, my main point with Roddick, again, shouts out to David. Is that if LG scales back phone production in the US, I can see that happening. That's fine. But to say that LG is going to go away because of this, I don't know. Of course not. Even their mobile division is not even going to go away. Definitely not to the level of HTC.
And wait a second, is it just me, or does LG have their own carrier in Korea?
I thought they help with the LTE-A, right? Isn't that what that is?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. And so, listen, LG is so deep into the business. No, and their best R&D. Think about this, Josh, because we're talking about this air gestures and what they're doing with the time of flight sensor. Their best R&D is what enables other products that they sell. So literally, it's like if they're using their phones as R&D to sell this stuff to Apple, to sell this stuff to Google. How many Pixels were made by LG? Again, how many? It's not that simple. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. All right. So last couple of hot takes before we call it on this episode. There are a lot of people, and our live chat agrees with you. There's a lot of talk about TVs and LCDs and OLEDs and monitors and whatnot. Everyone has a good point in that regard. Do you remember that? Sorry, random thought. There was that one LG speaker that we got from them at one point that looked like a milk bottle.
I
Like
still have it.
you
I
still
still
have
have
it. I thought that was
Yeah,
cool. That was nice
yeah.
design.
They gave us that for I think it was like a CES presentation.
It looks like an old like 1920s like milk bottle, like the milkman bottles. Okay, so here's one comment that I wanted to make sure I put out there as our final way of looking at this. T-Mobile is selling this at $600 basically. Like, I know there's some paperwork. I know there's some yellow tape on that, but at $600 compared to the $1,000 that you could spend for the competitors, does that change the way you feel about like, is this better than the rest?
Oh yeah, for $600, I would totally go for a G8.
Boom. That's my number one thought. Like the one thing LG needs to realize is that if they're not going to meet the rest of the market, they need to make sure that they're not overpricing it. And on T-Mobile, I understand that on other carriers, and if you get it unlocked, it's a different price. But for people who are on T-Mobile, this is kind of a compelling. This puts it right up against the OnePlus 6T, and I think that's a fairly worthy comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like if you're getting a chump, you've got the latest and greatest. There are a couple of things that LG doesn't. So for me, it's odd. Like, for example, it's got wireless charging, but it doesn't support faster 15-watt. So those are like the weird things where I'm like, what the hell? Like, seriously? What happened here?
Yeah.
But other than that, dude, I mean, I hope that LG continues making phones, that they're not going to stop.
Yeah, they're not going to.
They're just not. I would fix again. They really, just like they revamped their whole hardware division after the G5. We need another kind of flop like that for their software division to be told, guys, move on.
Yeah. I agree. And wasn't there a time when LG like was working super closely with Google? Like, well, whatever happened there? Like, we could have gotten.
I have no idea. And we've got some Android One editions of the G7.
Yeah.
I have no idea where that ended, but I do feel that LG really needs to start taking their software seriously. And again, it has nothing. Let's forget about the damn visuals. It's about the logic behind the design. I mean, come on, man. I mean, you can totally tell the difference between a David Fincher movie and any other director just because of its style, just because of that approach. There's so much logic to the psychology of the way software is designed in many companies. And it's like if LG has become completely they've like completely ignored the importance of logic in the way the operating system should perform, how you navigate it. And that's, for me, that's one of the biggest things they need to work on.
All right, there we go. Okay, I think we did it. About an hour show there. By the way, everyone in the live chat, anybody who is watching live right now, thank you for sticking with us even after the 1 hour delay. Next week, I'm gonna make sure this podcast looks very different because Hangouts, we're done with you, man. Like
No,
Hangouts, you could not die faster at this point because my goodness, like this used to be a reliable thing. It's not. So that level of stress we had this morning is never gonna happen again. I don't want it to ever happen again. No matter how much more work I have to put in. I don't want Hangouts to be the reason. In any case, thank you again, Jaime. I'm gonna kind of do the outro a little bit differently. So Jaime, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Oh, Jaime_Rivera on Twitter, Jaime Rivera on Instagram, and that's it. I'm mostly on Instagram.
All right, cool. Don't forget that Jaime also hosts the Pocketnow Daily right here on Pocketnow, and also Pocketnow Audio every single weekday. As for myself, you can find me at JV Tech Tea. I am JV. You know me. I love tech, and I love to drink me some tea. All right, so catch up on what the weekly is talking about at pocketnow.com/podcast. Also, make sure you make your voices heard by emailing us podcast@pocketnow.com. Also, a special shout out to anybody who was in the live chat giving us some great feedback, and one more shout out to I Am Blur. My goodness. Don't waste too much of your money on us. Let me just say that. We'd certainly appreciate your feedback through reviews and ratings on Google, Apple, Spotify, Overcast, and wherever you happen to be streaming us, because without you, we wouldn't have been able to make your show for your eyes and ears for 7 years straight. All right, we're going to see you next week on a new a new streaming platform. Let's put it that way, because Hangouts is finally going to go away for us. I'm going to start getting my research down on Skype. But also next week, we'll see who we'll be able to have on, and we'll also see what's in their pocket now. I'm really happy about this recurring segment. All right. So thank you once again for watching. And if you're on the streaming service for your podcast audio, thank you again for listening. And make sure to give us those reviews and to continue listening to the Pocketnow Weekly every single week. Again, it is the weekly. So next week, we will see you on our next episode.